Welcome to Ink Well Spoken presents Common Genius, Uncommon Destiny. I am your host, Reggie Key, and today's genius guest is Zach Muhammad. Zach, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. We caught you in the middle of a work day, huh?
Oh yeah,
All
that's the
right.
best time.
Yeah, yeah. I appreciate you taking the time out. I appreciate you being willing to do this while you're hopping in and out, making these deliveries. So we'll get it going as best we can. So Zach, I want to start off this interview with a very basic question. You ready for the question?
Ready?
Zach, do you consider yourself to be a genius?
Genius. I would not put it like at that level, but I do pretty good.
Okay. Now, when you say that level, what level are you using to define whether you're a genius or not?
Oh, I'm thinking about like what do you call it? Mensa society, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So you're thinking along the lines of IQ, things like that, intelligence quotas.
Correct.
Okay.
Hmm.
So, and that's cool. A lot of people define genius that way, but the whole intent of my book and my workshop is to redefine this word genius so that more of us fit on the inside of it. And you'll see why it's important a little later on. Let me ask you a follow-up question. You ready for the follow-up?
Ready?
Who comes to mind when you hear this word genius? What person comes to mind when you think of this word?
Einstein, I would guess, would be the first person that comes to mind.
Yep. Yep. And that's the thing. Most people think of Einstein. He's the number one thought, he's the number one face, he's the number one name, the number one image, whatever you want to call it, that comes into people's mind. And
Hmm.
this is not meant to take away the genius from Einstein, but what it's meant to do is to broaden the definition because in truth, that Einstein was just one type of genius. What do you think about that?
Okay, I can believe that.
Yeah. Genius does not have to be defined merely by IQ, merely by how high of a GPA you had in college, merely by the very small definition that people ascribe to Einstein. The thing that I found is interesting, Zach, is that most of us, when we think of genius, we think of somebody who we have no connection to, who we cannot identify with. I don't know about you, Zach, but I don't look like Einstein. Do you?
No.
You think you look like Einstein?
Okay.
Right? Like both of us, I
Right.
think you shave your hair like I do, man. I ain't got the white fuzzy hair. You know what I'm saying? My
Right.
skin complexion is a little darker than his. And so the thing about define how we define genius, however we define genius, we at the same time end up excluding ourselves from it most times because we define it by someone's standards that have nothing to do with us.
Okay.
The thing that I found in doing this interview series one on one is that the people who do identify themselves as genius, most times when I ask them who's a genius, they name somebody that they know. They name somebody that's in their family. They name a parent. They're like, yeah, my dad and my mom was a genius. Therefore, by way of association, they have a higher percentage, a higher likelihood of saying I'm a genius too. So we've got to
Okay.
address this issue where we define a word by a person that then excludes us from being able to be considered a genius. Does that sound like
Okay.
something that's worth doing?
Yes.
All right, cool. So there's a quote that comes from Einstein that can help us wrap our minds around this because what we're really doing, Zach, is we are redefining, we are deconstructing genius and then reconstructing it with a different perspective in mind. Okay.
Okay.
And hopefully when we reconstruct it, you'll see yourself in it at the end of it. So are you ready for this quote? It's a pretty deep quote.
Ready.
Here it is. If you judge a fish by how well it can climb a tree, it'll spend its entire life thinking it's stupid.
Okay.
It's a pretty heavy quote, man. You might some people need me to say it twice. You need me to say it again?
Sure.
All right. If you judge a fish by how well it can climb a tree, it'll spend its entire life thinking
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So explain your wow. Why did how what made you say wow when you heard it for the second time?
Because I mean, the fish can't climb a tree. That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense, right?
All
Do
right.
you, do you get why this quote is coming at the beginning of this interview, though?
Uh, I well, I guess you could say if the fish is thinking that it can't climb the tree, and that's why it's classifying itself as not being the genius. Yeah, I could understand that
Yeah.
because they're
So
looking at it completely the wrong way.
exactly. Like fish are supposed to be in water. Fish don't
Uh-huh.
climb trees. In fact,
Right.
I know we've experienced a lot in the past 2 years, Zach, but if I look outside and see a fish in a tree, I'm getting off the planet. It's time to move.
Time to go.
You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
completely unnatural. And
Yep.
so in like manner, it's unnatural for us to think of Einstein as the definition of genius and then tell ourselves that we don't fit that genius definition because we're not Einstein. Like if Einstein were to show up in this quote or show up in this metaphor, he'd be a bear. He climbs trees easy. He was designed to climb trees, the tree of physics. That system is his. But our system, our element is different. Just like a fish's element is not land, a fish's element is water. It's designed, it has scales, it has fins, it has gills. It is streamlined to excel in water. And if you pick this fish up off the land and put it into the water, you're going to see what it was designed to do. You're going to see its genius at work. Would you agree?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Like I dare you, I don't know how well you swim, but I dare you to put a fish in the water and try and keep up with it swimming. You think you can keep up with a fish in the water?
No.
Nah.
No. Not at all.
So we got to find your water element. We got to find what your lane is, what it was that you were designed to do, so that we make sure that you're thriving in it and not defining your genius by an element that you were never meant to be in. Does that sound like something worth exploring?
Yes.
I think so too. So how we're going to figure out your element and how you were designed is by three components that I outlined in my book. All right. And those three components are talent and purpose.
One more time.
Those three elements that help define genius or redefine it are passion, talent, and purpose.
Okay.
What are the three elements you just heard me say?
I heard passion.
Uh-huh.
That was it.
Okay. That's why I'm glad I asked you. I'm like, wait a minute, I got to make sure you hear this. So passion is the first one.
Okay.
The second one is talent.
Parent.
Talent, like a God-given talent.
Oh, talent. Okay. Oh, sorry. I thought you said
Yes,
okay. Talent. Okay.
That's okay. That's okay. And then the third one is purpose.
So did you say passion, talent, and focus?
Purpose.
Purpose. Okay.
There we go.
Passion, talent,
Passion, talent, and purpose. And we'll readjust those as we get to the different components, the different stages of it. So I'm gonna start, and I'm gonna treat passion the same way that we just treated genius. Like we kind of looked at genius from a different angle to give us a different understanding of how we should be defining it. Okay.
Uh-huh.
But I need your help to do it. Here's my third or fourth question to you. What words or phrases come to mind when you hear this word passion?
Passion, like something that you're doing that you like enjoy doing, like you don't have to think about doing it at your best because it just comes out of it's just like a natural thing.
The natural thing, yeah. It's like it's what drives you, right?
Uh-huh.
When people find their passion, sometimes they'll be in it and they don't care whether they get paid or not. Like I don't care if you pay me for this or not. I'm doing it because I have this drive to do it, right?
Yes.
All right. So having defined it in that way, I'm going to add one word to what we've said about passion that I hear a lot. That's going to launch us into a completely different direction. Okay.
Okay.
Just like most people think of Einstein when I say genius, the number one word that people think of when I say passion, and when I say people, I'm like middle schoolers, high schoolers, college students, adult professionals. When I
Okay.
say, hey, passion, the word that comes to most people's mind is love.
Okay.
Did you hear that?
Yep.
And that
I mean, I
seems
can
to make
believe that. I can believe that.
yeah, it seems to make sense, right? Here's where it
Mhm.
gets interesting, though, Zach. I read a book a long time ago by a man named Mike Murdoch. And Mike's book was called The Assignment. And in the assignment, he basically says, hey, look, if you want to figure out what your assignment is in the world, why you were birthed into the earth, in the time that you were, in the period that you were, in the area that you were, it's like you got to focus on what you hate.
Really?
Yeah. He
That's
said
weird.
he came from the exact opposite end of the spectrum from love.
Okay.
So it is weird, right? It makes you, it's like, huh, let me talk about this some more because that's interesting. Here's what he says. He's like, look, the thing that you identify as something, and notice I said thing, not a person. We're not talking about hating people. We're talking
Okay.
about hating a thing. The thing that you hate is something that's broken in the world that affects you in a negative way. In fact, it may have gone as far as it may have gone as far as to traumatize you, which is why you have such a hatred for it. It's something that you may have been exposed to when you were younger, or you saw your parents exposed to when they were younger, or some loved one, sibling, whatever, when you were younger. And when you saw it happen, you was like, oh, I hate that. I hate that it made me feel this way, or somebody that I love feel this way. And so as you get older and you continue to see this thing operate, you'll be like, "Oh, I hate that," and you might start saying, Zach, you might start saying things like, "Somebody should do something about that." After you go off on your rant about how you hate to see this thing, you may say,
Uh-huh.
"Somebody should do something about that." And Zach, if
Yep.
you find yourself saying that often enough to enough people, somebody should do something about that. Guess who that somebody really is?
Myself?
It's you, because it's grabbing your attention. It's rubbing you the wrong way. And you might look around at other people and be like, "Y'all not bothered by that?" And they might be like, "Nah, it doesn't affect me." And you're like, "What the
Mm.
like that's a problem for me." And that's a good problem to have, because once you have laid your eyes on this thing that bothers you, you will be driven to do something about it. Once you realize that, oh, maybe it's me that need to do something about it. You ever heard the
Okay.
expression, "I hate that with a passion"?
Yep.
So it's not so far fetched, because we say, I've heard that phrase a lot in my life. I might have uttered it myself sometimes. And so again, there's something. Would you agree, Zach, that the world is broken?
Yes, definitely.
Definitely. One of the reasons, Zach, why I believe the world is broken is because there's not enough people who are saying, "Hey, I'm a genius." Because when you are a genius, you realize that you have something to contribute and something to lend out, something to provide to people and to your community, to your environment, that only you can give out. But Zach, if everybody is pointing to everything that's broken in the world, saying somebody else should do something about that, then that's why nothing is getting fixed, and that's why the world remains broken.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you picking up what I'm putting down?
Yes, yes.
Man, you putting this on work, bro. You these packages are packing up fast.
Oh, yeah.
I
And
see
it's
you
starting to
back
rain, so
there.
that ain't cool either.
Oh man, I get you inside somewhere. So, second, if we understand that this brokenness that's in the world that affects us in a negative way, that possibly even traumatizes us in such a way that we're healing from it or trying to get over it and course correct our lives, then the question for you becomes very personal, if you don't mind me asking. Zach, what is it that you hate?
Let's see. What is it that I hate in particular?
Yep,
Okay, let's go down. Let's get into it,
let's
right?
let's get it.
So, this is the one thing that I hate, and that is in the Black community feeling like they're victims of stuff that's going on here in the world and that they can't do anything about it. I just really do not like that at all whatsoever.
Got you. That's
That's
a two-headed
untrue.
coin. Yep. Specifically in this country, right? That's a
Yes.
two-headed coin. One is victimization, right? Because that's a real thing. That's something that implies that something has been done to us, but then the flip side of that coin is, using that as a crutch to say this is why I can't do anything because
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, I got you. Okay. So can I give you an example of how when you have zoned in on what it is to hate, how it can really project and give you a new trajectory as to what you should be doing?
Okay.
I'm gonna give you a real life.
Now it's making sense when you said that with the start with hate because now I'm understanding better.
Yeah.
Because at first I thought it was crazy.
Hey, I appreciate you keeping that. You was like, I'm gonna get this dude 5 minutes to try and rectify this, and I might have to end this call.
I'll be like, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. I'm out.
You talking about hate speech? Like what are we talking about? So I appreciate you, trusting the process, trusting your sister who recommended you, because your sister don't have a hateful bone in her body, so she recommended you. She went through this.
Okay.
It wasn't gonna be nothing bad. But check it out. This example should really hit home what it is that I'm saying and how this can really begin to give you real focus in your life. Okay. So, I take this message to a lot of places, right? And one time I was called to an elementary school. In this elementary school, the principal was like, "Hey, I got these 10 little boys that are in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade that I need you to talk to. These 10 little boys were all minority boys. They were all in one class for an entire day together.
Okay.
Like 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders in one class. That doesn't sound right, does it?
No.
So something was happening developmentally with them that causing them to be stunted because they should be in different classes. So in truth, they had all been negatively labeled, victimized, if you will, with terms like ADD, ADHD. This person is emotionally disruptive. This person is, emotionally disturbed or disruptive in class. So they all were on IEPs, what you and I would have been called remedial or special ed back in the day. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So when I came in, I said, "Hey, look, the first thing I want to do is tell these gentlemen." I would spend a day a week with them, right? And so I said, "Hey, you all are geniuses. Did you know that?" And Zach, they looked at me like I cursed at them. It was like, "Who are you talking to?"
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
It was like, "Dude, you in the wrong class." Like they were offended that I would dare try and put a label on them that was higher, that had a higher expectation than what had normally been told with the word and the languages that was normally spoken to them, right? So they scoffed at that. So I said, "Okay, let me ask you a question." And so this question, the reason why I focus on hate a lot, not because just the book, but I know when I talk to youth that they'll tell if I can get any youth to talk, it'll be centered around, "Hey, what do you hate?" Because kids, they always got something that they hate, right? So I was like, "Hey, tell me what y'all hate."
Of course.
And so they got real talkative then, Zach. In fact, Zach, something very interesting happened. You know what happened? These little boys, 10 little boys who could never agree on anything. They were always fighting on what to play, when to play, who got what seat, whatever. They all universally agreed that they hated the same thing, basically.
Wow.
You know what that thing was?
Okay.
Take a wild guess what it was.
What was that?
Now I want you to take a guess.
Being classified as the same as the other person that can't do anything, I guess.
Well, that's true, but of course they can't articulate as well as you did, right? Basically, they're being victimized. What is victimizing them? What is? I'm gonna try and use your language. What was victimizing them? What was making them feel like they were less than? Like they get all these labels, putting these labels on them.
I would probably say whatever the authorities and the teachers were telling them they are, even though they didn't feel that way. They just stuck them into a category and said, "Yeah, this is you," and that's it.
And guess what that system is called? That they said one syllable: school. And they said it with some pride too. They was like, "We hate school, Mr. Key. Now what?" They thought they had wrecked my whole workshop. But little did they know they was playing right into my hands because I'm like, "Oh, you hate school, do you?" And I said, "Okay." Now, if you remember, what I told you is the same thing that I told them. And it was, hey, look, the thing that you hate is the thing that you were put on this planet to fix, the thing that you were put on this planet to go toe to toe with and to face and do something about. So if you remember that definition and you remember what they said they hated, which was school, you know what I told them, Zach?
Hmm.
I said, each of you is a future educator. That's why you hate school.
Yeah, because they, from their experience, they know exactly what they don't like.
Exactly.
And so they will definitely do something better because they know the experience. They've been there.
Yes. And that was a game changer, Zach. Their minds, they looked at me like, what this dude just say? No, they weren't offended. They was just in shock. And I was like, gotcha. And I was like, look, let me explain this to you a little more though. So I went a little deeper. So I told them this. I said, hey, look, there are like 8 different learning styles. I don't know if you knew that, Zach. Let me make sure I get my hands in the frame. There are 8 different learning styles. But at most, schools only teach from 3. So if you're not one who learns verbally by somebody talking to you, if you're not one who learns audibly by somebody by listening, so hold on, verbally and audibly are the same thing, sort of. If you don't learn by verbal communication and you don't learn by visual communication, and you're not a left brain thinker, which means you like math, you're a logical person. If you're not one of those learning styles, then when information is being presented to you, it's not going to make, you're going to be like, I don't know what you're saying. I'm not, something is getting lost in translation. And of course, the school is going to present itself like this is the way that everybody learns. And so anyone who has a different learning style is going to think that they're going to be like that fish. I must be stupid. Something's wrong.
Right, exactly, because you're not like everybody else.
Yeah, because you're not fitting. You're supposed to climb this tree. Well, I can't climb the tree. But you're not taking time to look at me. I shouldn't be told to climb tree. I'm a fish. Right? So now they literally feel like a fish out of water. And Zach, what happens when a fish stays out of water too long?
Die.
It dies. And so this is where I step in to revitalize, resuscitate, and resurrect the dying genius that I see around me. And so I started talking to them. I said, hey, look, if instead of saying that you hate school and running away from it, if you say, you know what, I hate school, but I got something to offer that'll help fix it, and realize that their learning style could be turned into a teaching style, and then they go into a classroom with it, guess what happens? Now, when they teach from their learning style, when they teach from a kinesthetic point of view, which means, hey, I got to move in order for me to process information. And they're not told to, hey, you're moving, sit down, be still, right? When you're an exploratory learner, which means you got to put your hands on stuff. Your nephew, man, is an exploratory. When I started breaking this down for your nephew, and I was like, you're an exploratory tactile learner. You got to put your hands on stuff. And look, as I was saying that, he was clicking the pen. He was like, click, 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 click. And I was like, see, you're proving my point. So if you're told, hey, look, you learn by your hands, but you're not being told constantly, keep your hands to yourself, or you're a right brain thinker, right? If you take that learning style and embrace it, and you're in an environment where you can embrace it, and now you're using it to teach people, you're going to reach other people who have the same learning style that feel marginalized. Now, the teaching force is more diverse. It represents the 8 learning styles, and maybe we restructure schools so that every learning style is presented with a matching teaching style, and now nobody's truly getting left behind anymore. Because just like the earth, the school system is broken too. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, definitely, without a doubt. Yes.
Me and Stanley talk about this all the time. Like, yo, the school system is failing some of our students who don't learn like everybody else does. And instead of restructuring the system, instead of saying, hey, look, why don't we get this fish in some water and then judge it by that criteria, we keep trying to put a square peg in a round circle and saying like, well, something's wrong with the peg. Like, no, it's not. Something's wrong with the system. But do you see now how what you hate can begin to form your trajectory about what you should be doing and what you've been designed to address in the world?
Yes.
All right, cool. And so their learning style is one of their tools. And guess what? Like when you see something broken in your house, right? You got kids in your house, so I know stuff get broken.
Oh yeah.
It's just part of the course. So when you know your daughter comes and says, "Hey, Dad, something's broken," you come and assess what's broken, and you figure out, can I fix this? And Zach, once you determine that, hey, I can fix this, what's the next thing you might look for to fix the thing that's broken in your house?
Tools.
Right. You got to find the right tool, though, correct?
Right. Yes.
Because not every tool is for every circumstance.
No.
And so that brings me to the next component in this genius equation, which is talent. Your talent, Zach, and I'm going to ask you what your talent is specifically, but generically speaking, your talent is your tool that you've been given to address the thing that's broken, that's driving your passion, the thing that you hate.
Okay.
What you think about that?
Interesting.
Okay. So I still got your attention, so I think that's good. So to continue to make this personal and not just talk generically, I'm gonna ask you my next question for you, which is, Zach, what do you see as your talent?
Let's see. Well, problem solving. And yeah, so like, I'm just always looking for a way to optimize to do something better. When my kids are home together, it'll be done so much faster. You won't even notice that you have to spend time doing it. So I'm always looking at things and trying to figure out how to do it faster and better.
Okay. And so in order to problem solve, it sounds like you don't rely on just you solving the problem, but you start looking around to see like who can contribute in what specific way so that we can get this thing fixed and solved faster. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's what it sounded like I heard. Okay. And so that's beautiful because a problem solver has to identify the cause and effect of a situation before they start trying to solve it. Would you agree?
Yes, that makes sense.
All right. So do you
because otherwise you're just constantly, I saw an analogy one time where Anthony Robbins was like, doctors are good-hearted people, but somebody at the top of the river is just throwing people off the thing, but the doctors don't go up there to see who's throwing them off, bad diet and all that stuff. They just, when they come down, fix them. Come down, fix them. So
right.
If you don't get to the root, how you gonna know, if you're just spinning your wheels or not?
Right. You just gonna wear yourself out. These people keep getting hurt. We don't know how. Let's keep fixing them. Like, wait a minute, what's causing the issue?
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that makes a lot of sense to me because that brings us to the last part of the equation, which is actually the easiest. Your purpose in life, Zach, is to understand what your talent is and use it as a tool to address the thing that you're passionate about. I think I already said that, but I just want to bring in the last part of this equation so we can land this plane and figure out what your genius is. So your ability to problem solve, when you apply it to this thing of you hate to see the victimization of our people in this country and how some have used it as a crutch to give an excuse as to why they can't be successful. Your genius can be found in analyzing the cause and effect of that, but then bringing people into the solution and say, hey, look, this is the cause and effect in your particular circumstance. And then being like, hey, this is how you can overcome this. This is what you've been equipped to do to solve this issue. And not just do it by yourself, but do it because you're very much speaking about community. That's what I hear. And so when we begin to empower the community, then we can begin to get this victimization off of our back and get it behind us.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. So it very much becomes a David and Goliath type of circumstance. But you know the difference between the David and Goliath story and what I see for you?
What's that?
So with David and Goliath, before David got on the scene, there was an entire army that was being victimized by Goliath for 40 days. Goliath came out and screamed at them for an entire day, daring somebody to come and fight him. Of course, he was big in stature, so he used his size and he used his voice to intimidate the people, the soldiers of Israel, even though they were soldiers, they were equipped to fight, even though they outnumbered this giant, it was by him that they were like, right?
Mhm.
They gave excuses why they couldn't go fight this man, right? But what David did was David got infuriated. David got passionate. He was like, yo, y'all just gonna let this dude talk? Like, nah. He was like, give me, and he said, I'm gonna do something about it. But here's a little before I get to where I see you doing a David and Goliath differently than David. I wanna touch on something real quick. So I don't know how familiar you are with this story, but once David stepped up and said, I'm gonna fight this giant, what happened next is the King Saul said, hey, that's great. Here's my armor. Take my armor because you're going to need this to go into this battle with him. But the problem, Zach, was that the king's armor didn't fit on this boy. He was a teenager.
Oh, wow.
And David knew this, though. David was like, nah, don't give me that. That's not going to work for me. This is like making sure you find your right talent and your right tool to address the thing that you hate. He was like, nah, don't give me that. Because you know what David killed Goliath with, right?
I have no clue. I never heard the story.
Oh, okay. All right. So David killed this giant that was like 9 feet in stature. And I don't know how tall David was, but I mean, they were short. They were less than 6 feet tall, the majority of them back in the day. He used a slingshot to kill a giant. Wow. He had a slingshot. You know why? He was like, don't give me this armor that doesn't fit me. The other reason why he was like, I'm going to take my slingshot in the battle was because David was a shepherd. And when he guarded his father's sheep, he used that slingshot to kill lions and bears. So he knew what he was doing with that slingshot.
Okay.
It was like, this is my thing right here, though. Y'all looking at it like it's small and trivial, but I know how to wield this. I know how to whip this thing. And so with that, he aimed for that giant's head and took it out. So there's a couple of cool things about that as we use it as a metaphor. The thing that you mentioned that you hate, the victimization of our people and how we use that as an excuse to not progress, is that a small problem or a large problem?
Very large.
It's very large. It's like Goliath. It's like it overshadowed and dwarfs us individually, right? And so some may look at that and say, well, I can't do anything about that, just like the soldiers did. But the thing of it is, you identified it though. Like, I hate that though. And because you hate it, Zach, your passion will have you go towards it no matter how big it is.
Okay.
You feel me? Just like those little boys, once they realize that their learning style is the equipment, is the tool that they have to fix the broken school system, you can't unlearn that. You can't unhear that. And once you realize that I have something within my possession that everybody keeps trying to write off as nothing, I know how to operate this thing. I'm going to address this thing. I don't care how big the school system is. I'm going to get on the inside of it and right the wrongs from within it.
Very good.
It's good, right?
Yeah.
Now, here's where you differ from David, because David took on this giant by himself. But here's what I hear you telling me that your genius is. You know what your genius is, Pat?
What's that?
Your genius is you'll look around you as David. Keep with me with this metaphor. David and Goliath. Goliath is a giant. Goliath represents the victimization that we allow ourselves as the people to experience that give us excuses as to why we can't progress, right? And when you look at this giant, you say, hey, look, I got a whole army behind me. Hey, look, you guys operate this way. You with the sword. You can look at the infantry. You can look at how each of the people, because you got a whole army behind you and say, we can surround this giant. If we each have a specific role that each of us takes, and we stick to that role and don't deviate from a plan that defines our role and that specializes our role, then we can take this thing out together.
Nice.
David did it by himself, which in truth, David did it with the spirit of God upon him, though. But your spirit, the spirit of God, as it rests upon you, is the type that says, let's come together as a community and overpower our enemy together.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
You're one who can cause people to assemble, and really, you know what? In truth, Zach, as I began to hear you, what I'm doing by going around individually and telling people, hey, you have genius on the inside of you. You have genius on the inside of you, and this is what it looks like. It's not your genius is different from my genius, but when we put our geniuses together, we can accomplish mighty feats, mighty exploits as a people, though. Because genius, the first thing it does is it self-affirms. It says, hey, look, I got this going on for me. And then you'll step out into the world and say, all right, what's your genius? Because other people will see you operating in your genius and say, well, doggone it, I got something special. It's not what Zach has, but I think I got something that I can operate like Zach. And I see you as being someone who can do pretty much the same thing that I'm doing, is to go around and tell people, hey, look, I see this on the inside of you. This is what you do that can help you get over your victimization, that can help you get over making excuses, and not just help you get over, but help your neighbor get over. Right? Are you
Yep.
like a person who likes to see what's another word for community, but like neighbors coming together and working together in unity and coming together for a cause that uplifts
Oh yeah,
the group?
definitely,
Yeah. So
definitely.
I see you as a person who galvanizes the people to uncover the hidden gems within them, to specifically address and to mobilize us so that we can get this victimization out of our mouth and start to get better words and better actions to overcome the obstacles that were stumbling blocks for our ancestors, and say no more. We're beyond this.
So yes, yes.
So you have the strategies to do that. You have the capacity to do that. You have the network to begin to draw people to you, and then unionize them, assemble them to realize that e pluribus unum, like right out of the many there came one.
Mhm.
Out of many different thinkers, we can have one singular thought, and that is to put victimization behind us and then begin to really progress the way we were meant to.
Yes, that would be really good. That would be
I think it will be good too.
really good.
And so that's your element, as defined by what your passion is, what your talent is, and of course what your purpose is in combining those things. Here's my last little message for you before we kind of wrap this up. When you first said that you were a problem solver, I thought about puzzles. Do you like puzzles?
I'm not sure.
You're not
That's
sure?
one thing that I haven't done. I haven't done puzzles since I was in like high school, so I don't
I,
remember much.
you know what?
Well,
COVID,
word puzzles, I guess, but like other kind of puzzles, like Jenga or activity puzzles, I like.
yeah, like jigsaw puzzles. Like I think COVID brought that out in a lot of us, right? When we were stuck at home, like just looking at
Yeah.
each other,
Uh-huh.
we started getting puzzles. Like we got about 4 or 5 puzzles that we put together in our house over the past 2 years, right? But
Wow.
when I think of you as a problem solver, I think of you as, coming across a puzzle and saying, hey, look, I can't get this done by myself. But then equipping the people in your household. Hey, look, you gather these pieces together. You gather these pieces. Maybe you color code them, right? And then
Hmm.
you work on that. You work on that section while I work on this section, so that we can put the puzzle together as a unit versus me doing it by myself. Because you said it earlier, if we do it together, we can get it done quicker and more efficiently, right?
Yes. Yes.
And that's very much how genius works. When you start thinking about this genius, I've given you some hints about how your genius operates, but in truth, you got to take these puzzle pieces, because you might have more than one thing that you hate. You may have more than one talent that we didn't get a chance to talk about over the past 30 or 40 minutes, right? But you got to
Hmm.
sit down and look at what are the pieces and how do they fit together to bring a vision before you that's like, yeah, this is what I'm purposed and destined to do. But again, your purpose and destiny involves other people's purposes and destiny too.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Normally, I ask people this favor once the podcast is over, once this interview is over. But I'm going to ask you now because it very much ties into what I see your genius as. Here's my ask of you, Zach. In order to equip the people around you so that we can put this puzzle together this puzzle together in unity, I
Mhm.
need you to identify other people who would be empowered by this message, who, when they hear it, they'll leave it like, you know what, I do have something to offer. So that when you go to them and say, hey, look, now that you know what your genius is, how can we work together to then put this victimization behind us, put it beneath us where it ought to be?
A specific person?
Yeah, any specific person. You don't got to put their name out here right now, but this is the
Mhm.
first time I've ever done this where I've asked a person on camera to say, "Hey, look, who think of one person, at least one person who can benefit, who you can talk to that I can talk to. You can lead them to me to then equip them." Because basically I'm saying you're a partner to this. Like most people I ask off camera because they might not do it. But because this is so closely connected to your genius, I feel like
Uh-huh.
it's beneficial to ask you on camera, and then you can give me names off camera once we finish. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fine. I do have a friend of mine for sure.
Good
They're
deal.
not black. They're not black,
Oh, it
but
doesn't
they
matter.
do. They're in a victimization type of a mode.
Okay. It doesn't matter, man. Whoever comes to your mind, just like Einstein, just bring them to me. So
Okay.
check it. We've pretty much gone through the equation. Thank you for hanging with me beyond the initial shock of hate. uh, I want to end this interview the same way we began it, and that's with a very simple question. Zach, do you see yourself as a genius now?
Yes.
Well, all right. Then I've done my job. You filled in nicely. You've said some things that you knew about yourself, but now you're seeing them in a different light, and that's all. That's all I feel like I'm purposed to do with these interviews. So I want to thank you again for coming on and taking the time, on site, working on the job to listen to me. And so as I started in the beginning, this has been Ink Well Spoken presents Common Genius, Uncommon Destiny. I am your host, Reggie Key. I'm a motivational speaker, a publisher, an author, a minister, and it's my uncommon cue, Zach, to see the genius in you.
Wow. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for this week's episode. Make sure you pick up the book, Common Genius, Uncommon Destiny, by my dad, Reggie Legend, available on Amazon and at inkwellspoken.com. Connect with us at Inkwellspoken on all social media platforms. If you enjoy our content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload.